A 17-year-old Chinese boy, while walking home, was forcibly taken to a residence and assaulted by two strangers. Displaying remarkable presence of mind, he seized the opportunity while his captors slept to make a daring escape, and immediately reported the crime to police. Little did he know his courageous act of reporting would help authorities solve a string of missing persons cases. Over 5 years, 6 young males had vanished, all later found killed. The youngest victim was just 14 years old. Who were these predators, and why specifically target these vulnerable young boys? In the early hours of March 29, 2012, 17-year-old Yang from Yangquan, Shaanxi, dragged his injured legs into a police station to report a crime. Trembling with fear, he recounted what had happened. After returning to his dormitory from work, feeling slightly hungry, he had gone out to buy some food. On his way to the restaurant, he sensed an eerie chill down his spine, the distinct feeling of being watched. Finishing his meal hurriedly, he quickened his pace back to his residence. However, as Yang made his way back to the dormitory, two strangers suddenly emerged from the darkness. Seizing the cover of night, they pounced, forcing him violently into their vehicle before transporting him to a residence. Upon entering, the men revealed their true monstrous nature. They stripped Yang naked, hosed him down roughly, then bound his limbs tightly before subjecting him to brutal assault. After completing their monstrous acts, one of the two men left for work, while the other collapsed exhausted into deep sleep in the room. Seizing this opportunity, Yang quickly loosened his restraints while the suspect slept, climbed out through the 4th-floor balcony window, and painstakingly escaped by shimmying down drain pipes and security railings. He then went straight to the police station to report the crime. After hearing Yang's account, the police immediately launched an operation. Guided by Yang, they arrived at a residential complex and located the crime scene based on his recollection. Coincidentally, the two suspects were preparing to leave. Working in coordination with Yang, the officers successfully apprehended both criminals at Yu Zhuoyang's residence at 10 p.m. on March 29, 2012. After apprehending the suspects, the police conducted thorough investigations and promptly confirmed their identities. The principal offender Liang Ying was born in 1968 in Yangquan, Shaanxi Province, working as a factory equipment maintenance technician. His accomplice Yu Zhuoyang was born in 1984, also from Yangquan, Shaanxi, serving as Liang's apprentice at the factory. At this point, a dramatic development occurred. When checking Liang Ying's criminal record, the police discovered this wasn't his first offense. He had only been released from prison 5 years earlier after completing his sentence. The truth was that Liang Ying had been different from most people since childhood. He was homosexual. While contemporary society has come to accept homosexuality, according to traditional views prevalent 1 or 2 decades ago, people still considered it pathological and maintained contemptuous attitudes towards such individuals. Liang Ying was painfully aware of this reality, so he never disclosed his sexual orientation, keeping it as his most deeply guarded secret buried in his heart. However, even while keeping it buried deep inside, this fundamental aspect of his being gradually fostered distorted psychological tendencies. As he grew older, Liang Ying slowly realized his growing attraction towards underage males. Exploiting his position as a factory mentor, he proceeded to assault multiple underage apprentices. In 2003, based on victim reports, police arrested Liang Ying on charges of assault and sentenced him to 4 years imprisonment. He was eventually released in 2007 after serving his full term. By conventional logic, a recently released convict still adjusting to societal changes should have learned his lesson and sincerely repented, making it highly unlikely he would reoffend so quickly. Indeed, from 2007 to 2012, Liang Ying appeared to have committed no further offenses. So what exactly transpired during these 5 years that led Liang Ying to relapse in 2012 and return to that path of no return? During interrogations, accomplice Yu Zhuoyang voluntarily confessed his crimes, revealing shocking truths about Liang Ying's depravity that surpassed all expectations. Contrary to initial beliefs, Liang hadn't waited 5 years to reoffend. As early as 2008, merely 1 year after his release, he had already uncontrollably committed his second offense. Yu Zhuoyang and Liang Ying were old acquaintances who had known each other before Liang's first imprisonment. At that time, Liang worked as a maintenance technician in a factory, while 18-year-old Yu came to work at the same factory. Under the factory management's arrangement, they became master and apprentice, despite their 16-year age difference. After his parents' divorce at age 10, Yu had lived with his grandparents. Unlike carefree children, he came to the factory with simple goals: to earn money honestly and achieve independence as soon as possible. However, what you never expected was that his seemingly normal master Liang Ying was actually a complete pervert. Liang frequently took advantage of their relationship to make inappropriate physical contact. As a newcomer to society desperate to keep his job, Yu initially endured these violations in silence. But Liang gradually became more brazen, even sneaking into Yu's bed at night to commit unspeakable acts of molestation while Yu slept. At first, Yu detested Liang's behavior. But gradually, Yu's feelings underwent subtle changes. Perhaps due to his broken family and lack of parental love, Yu stopped resisting Liang and began accepting his perverted behavior. Incredibly, he even developed affection for Liang. After Liang was imprisoned, Yu continued following his case closely. The moment Liang was released, Yu sought him out. After reminiscing, the two began a secret underground relationship. Through constant contact, Liang gradually influenced Yu. They became like-minded partners, both developing disturbing interests in underage boys. Starting in 2008, the pair began collaborating in criminal activities. Many psychologists later analyzed that Yu, originally a victim, became Liang's willing accomplice due to Stockholm Syndrome. This psychological phenomenon describes victims developing emotional bonds with their abusers, sometimes even assisting them. Essentially, it's a form of trauma bonding that developed over time, which helps explain Yu's otherwise inexplicable behavior. However, the crimes committed by the two men later escalated far beyond mere assault. The last case that ultimately exposed them occurred when victim Xiao Yang managed to escape after fierce resistance, thus revealing Liang and Yu's heinous acts. But before Xiao Yang, 6 younger boys had tragically fallen prey to them. Regrettably, unlike the fortunate Xiao Yang, these 6 children all met their deaths at the hands of Liang and Yu. On the afternoon of February 17, 2008, 16-year-old Zhao Hui encountered Liang Ying on the street. Posing as a teacher, Liang deceitfully offered to tutor Zhao Hui. Without suspicion, Zhao Hui was lured to Liang's residence. Once inside, Liang Ying and Yu Zhuoyang proposed playing a game with Zhao Hui. They coaxed him, explaining that the loser would have to remove clothing. Feeling uncomfortable, Zhao Hui refused to participate. When the boy resisted, the two men immediately restrained him, then proceeded to assault him while subjecting him to inhumane torture. What's particularly enraging is that Liang Ying's 4-year imprisonment had instilled no remorse whatsoever. On the contrary, he believed his previous arrest resulted from leaving witnesses alive. Remembering this, Liang promptly suffocated Zhao Hui with a pillow, then dismembered the body and disposed of it in a remote local river. Zhao Hui's family reported him missing the next day. But since less than 48 hours had passed, police didn't initiate an investigation. It wasn't until April 10, over a month later, that authorities received a report about discovered human remains in a cement factory's waterway. DNA testing confirmed the remains belonged to missing boy Zhao Hui. At that time, China was implementing the family planning policy, and many families had only one child. The death of a child was nothing short of catastrophic for these families. Upon receiving the tragic news about Zhao Hui, his grandmother was so distraught that she drank pesticide and passed away. His grandfather, elderly and frail, succumbed to overwhelming grief. Zhao Hui's father, consumed by sorrow, died in a car accident while absent-mindedly exiting his vehicle. Only Zhao Hui's mother remained. Her hair turned white overnight, left alone to struggle through life. What was once a happy and complete family had instantly collapsed. However, their violence against Zhao Hui failed to satisfy their depraved desires. On August 7th of the same year, the pair targeted their second victim, 20-year-old Yang Xiaonan. Once again, Liang Ying lured Yang Xiaonan to his home under false pretenses. The two men attempted to coerce Yang into playing their strip game, but Yang firmly refused to cooperate. Seeing this resistance, Yu Zhuoyang restrained Yang tightly with ropes. While Yang was bound and helpless, both men assaulted him. To cover their tracks, Liang Ying then bludgeoned Yang unconscious with dumbbells before dismembering his body while he was still alive. They stuffed the remains into woven bags and dumped them at an abandoned landfill in Yangchuan suburbs. After Yang Xiaonan's disappearance, his family expressed suspicions about Liang Ying to police. When another young man of similar age went missing shortly afterward, authorities grew alarmed and launched an investigation. During this period, police interrogated Liang Ying, but lacking concrete evidence, were forced to let him remain free. On September 2, 2009, another disappearance case occurred. Colleagues informed Shi Haixing's parents that their son hadn't shown up for work for several days. The frantic parents immediately reported to police, yet no news about their child emerged. Little did they know their son had already fallen victim to Liang and Yu. On the day of the crime, Yu drove while Liang brandished a knife, kidnapping she under the pretense of robbery to Yu's residence. They assaulted she using their established methods before brutally ending his life days later. The pattern continued. Victim Xiao Ma on September 3, 2010, followed by victim Xiao Bai on May 30, 2011, both minors when killed. Then on August 17, 2011, another desperate father reported his 14-year-old son Chen Qiong missing. He recounted how his son had been playing downstairs the previous evening, called at 11 p.m. saying he'd return soon, but became unreachable by midnight. This familiar case of a missing minor boy plunged investigators into familiar frustration. Chen's father papered the neighborhood with missing person flyers, only to receive the dreaded call a month later. His son's body had been found by the river, though the killers remained unidentified. A critical question emerges. How did 6 cases occurring between 2008 to 2011 fail to lead to Liang and Yu's capture? Subsequent police analysis revealed Liang's ruthless cunning. He deliberately varied each body disposal location, thwarting investigative patterns. This calculated randomness severely hampered the investigation, leaving cases unsolved. The breakthrough came through survivor Xiao Yang's miraculous escape in 2012. His testimony not only saved himself but finally brought justice for the 6 boys. The net finally closed on March 29, 2012, when police arrested both criminals at Yu's residence at 10 p.m. On August 22, 2013, the Yangquan Intermediate People's Court sentenced Liang Ying and Yu Zhuayang to death with lifetime deprivation of political rights for intentional homicide and illegal detention. This case proves a sobering truth. Protecting oneself isn't just for girls. Boys must stay equally vigilant. This is no joking matter. Our society harbors dangerous outliers who test legal boundaries. Regardless of gender, all must remember, constant caution around strangers remains a lifelong necessity. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this case, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow Case Diaries. There are plenty more cases coming your way. Got thoughts on today's story? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. See you in the next one.